Hello, I'm George Saylor of the LD Fargo Public Library in beautiful downtown Lake Mills, Wisconsin, and I have a book recommendation here, Fatale by Jean-Patrick Manchette. This is a reprint of the 1977 crime novel. Manchette was a translator of American crime fiction from English into French, and then he decided to write some of his own books, and this is, I guess, one of the more popular ones. So this is the first chapter. The hunters were 6 in number, men mostly 50 or older, but also 2 younger ones with sarcastic expressions. They all wore check shirts, sheepskin jackets, waterproof khaki trench coats, more or less high boots, and caps. One of the 2 younger guys was all skin and bone, and one of the 50-year-olds, a bespectacled pharmacist with white hair and a crew cut, was fairly thin. The other hunters were pot-bellied and rubicund, especially one named Riccar. They carried 2 or 3 round sporting guns because birds were the game. They had 3 dogs, 2 pointers, and a Gordon setter. Off to the northeast, there must have been other hunters because they heard a gunshot, followed by another, from a kilometer or perhaps a kilometer and a half away. They reached the end of a stretch of damp moorland. For 10 meters or so, they passed through silver birch saplings barely taller than a man. Then they found themselves amidst large rustling trees, mainly birch and poplar and thickets. The group loosened. There was standing water here and there. From the northeast came 4 or 5 more distant reports, a muted crackle of fire. A little later they broke up deliberately. They'd been hunting for a good 3 hours and still had not killed anything. Everyone was frustrated and crotchety. A moment came when Riccar went down into a damp, narrow coombe strewn with masses of rotting leaves. He found the descent rather hard because his paunch pulled him forward and he was obliged to dig in his heels and throw his head back. His head was shaped like a pear, stem upwards, and his bald pate was red beneath his green and brown camouflage-style cap. The skin of his face was red too, his eyes bright blue and his eyebrows white. His nose was short and stubby, with wide nostrils and white hairs inside them. He pulled up at the bottom of the coombe to catch his breath. He propped his gun against a tree trunk, then leaned back against it himself. Mechanically, he felt in his jacket pocket for a cigarette, then recalled that he had given up smoking 3 weeks earlier and let his hand fall to his side. He was disappointed. Suddenly a gunshot rang out no more than 100 meters away, and a badly trained dog barked briefly. Riccar had no dog. Without removing his considerable backside from the tree trunk, he leaned forward and with his mouth half open cocked an ear in the direction of the sound. All he heard at first was the murmur of the leaves, then someone coming down behind him into the coombe. He turned his head with some difficulty to see a young woman standing motionless at the foot of the incline, just 4 steps from him. A thin figure in a long, light brown oilskin, waders, a round rain hat over her long brown hair. Slung over her shoulder was a 16-gauge shotgun. "Good heavens! If it isn't Melanie Horst!" exclaimed Riccar, hastily detaching his rump from the tree trunk and sucking at his stomach. "Well, this is a nice surprise. But how come? I thought you'd left us for good, dear child." She smiled vaguely. She might have been 30 or 35. She had dark brown eyes and delicate features. The vague smile barely exposed her teeth, which were small and even. Riccar approached the young woman, continuing to address her as "dear child," and talking in an avuncular tone as his big blue eyes roved up and down her slim form. He declared himself greatly astonished to see her here. First, because she never went shooting, and secondly, because she had said her goodbyes to everyone the previous afternoon in taking a taxi to the station. "As surprises go, this beats all. And such a pleasant one, too," he exclaimed. And she unslung her 16-gauge shotgun, turned it on him, and before he had finished smiling, emptied both barrels into his gut. Moments later, he was lying on his back against the upward slope and its rotting leaves. His torso was full of holes, and his khaki jacket had ridden up beneath his chin from the impact, and his check shirt was half out of his pants. Riccar's bare head was bent forward and twisted to one side. His cheek was in the mud, his eyes and mouth were open, and his cap lay upturned on the ground. With saliva glistening in his mouth, the man narrowed one eye slightly and died. From far away, there came the sound of 3 gunshots. The young woman walked away. So that's the first chapter. It's a short book. It's only 91 pages for the novel, with another 7 or so of the afterword about the novel itself and the writer. And so it's about the woman who just killed the guy, and she basically makes a living by going around France and being a gun for hire. It's a good book. It's brief. It's quick. It's Fatale by Jean-Patrick Manchette. My name's Gerard Saylor of the OD Fargo Public Library in beautiful downtown Lake Mills, and that's what's to read.